Yo, what is up guys? It's the Goblin and welcome back to another Fortnite Battle Royale tips and tricks video. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to get better at Fortnite and how to improve in Fortnite Season 7. And while I do a lot of tips and tricks videos, the majority of them are focused towards more solo tips and how to get solo wins, dominate in solos, because that is the game mode that I do play the most. You know, when I first started playing Fortnite, I think like everyone or most people, you get into it playing with your friends, squads, or duos, but then I sort of, fell in love with the solo mode and just playing for solo wins and really stuff like that is what I enjoy the most. But I still like to play squads and duos late night with my friends, and in this video that's what we're going to be focusing on is tips for how to get better at Fortnite in general, but more towards squads and duos a little bit instead of, you know, what I've talked about in the past with solo wins. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this video. If you guys could smack a like on the thing, I would very, very much appreciate that. Let's go for 2,000 likes. It is a lot to ask for, but I would very, very much appreciate if we could hit that. Also, of course, big shout out to the notification squad, the notification gang, and also a huge shout out to everyone using my support a creator code in the Fortnite item shop, which is the Goblin YT. I'll show it up on the screen, and there's so many people supporting me, and basically you just enter it into the item shop, and then whenever you buy skins, a percentage helps to support the creator. So I appreciate everyone doing that. All right, let's get right into this video and let's talk about some tips and tricks. So in this video, I was playing duos with my friend Lord Reefy, who is someone that's a little bit newer to the game, and we were playing together. He's an older friend of mine that we used to play Call of Duty back in the day all the time, and he's sort of newer to Fortnite, right? And he's a decent player, but we're playing duos together, and we're going for some solo wins, or not solo wins, duo wins, and this is a nice one where I was able to get a decent amount of kills and sort of clutch up at the end, right? So in this video, we're focusing on squad tips and duo tips, and while, you know, build fights and aiming and all that stuff remains the same, it doesn't matter what game mode you're in, a lot of decision making is completely different in these game modes, and it starts off with the drop. When dropping for solos, you can drop to Junk Junction, you can drop to those random two houses outside of retail, and kind of in the middle of retail and salty. You can do some weird drops, you know, land at the bridge of paradise. But when you're playing with duos or squads, you have to remember that wherever you are landing, you're going to have to split that loot at minimum with that amount of people. And if another full team shows up, a full team isn't just one person, so you could have 4 people, 2 people showing up in that area just, you know, based off the luck of another team calling that drop. So picking drops, I'm a big fan of stretching to areas that are like, so if the bus is over Tilted Towers, stretching with your group over to Retail Row, even something like a little bit of a stretch like Salty Springs or Fatal Fields, areas where there might be some people you have to fight, but no matter what, you will get out of there with a good amount of loot, because trust me, the struggle for loot is a big thing in squads. It's not as big of a deal in duos because you don't have to split it with as many people, of course, but in squads it's a big thing, and learning to win fights with low health and stuff could be a major tip as well to talk about with that sort of stuff. So the mindset and the decision making sort of changes from the jump, like I said, with picking where you're going to land in the game, but other stuff has to be changed as well. For example, the big thing is shields. The amount of shields you have, if you find extra shields in a solo, you just get to hold on to them, or either use them, drop them, or hold on to them, right? But if you find them in the squads, you're going to be, especially people that are really good at looting, knowing chest locations, you're probably going to be finding more chests and stuff than the average person, and more shields, so you should be splitting those with your teammates. And when it comes down to this, ideally you want to be playing with people that, you know, in a squad, 3 other people of your skill level, or in a duo with 1 other person of your skill level. That would be ideal, but that isn't always the case. And if you're playing with someone that are, you know, are around equal skill level, you always want to share your potions. Of course, you don't want to hog potions. There's certain people, and we all know them in squads, that love to hog potions, but it is the best idea to share them around. However, if you're playing, and for example, you're playing with someone that, you know, maybe it's your grandma's first time trying to play Fortnite, and maybe there's some grandmas out there that are really good at pub stomping in Fortnite and winning in squads and stuff, but, you know, maybe you might want to keep a little bit of the potion for yourself so you could carry that game a little bit harder, or you could drop the potion so your grandma could learn to win more fights, or have that stuff, you know? If you're playing in a squad and you have 2 really good players and 2 average players, if you're one of the really good players, you know, you don't want to, you might not want to say, hey, I'm better than you, and, you know, you're not trying to make a fighter out of it, but I'm just saying, you know, if you're being adults about it, you might want to keep that potion for yourself and put it on to one of your better players. Or for example, if I play with PC players, and of course it's cross-platform, I usually say, yo, PC players, do you want this sniper? Do you want this hunting rifle? Because I know it's going to be more effective in their hands. Yo, do you want to hold this deagle? Instead, oh, you drop me the splodes. There's different things that work better on different consoles or at different skill levels, and that's a good thing to have. You know, maybe one of your teammates really is good at building and trapping people. If you have 13 traps, drop some of them for them. Drop your rockets. That's the main thing, is that you should have some people carrying rockets also in squads, and the teammate should always be dropping the rockets for them. It should be a natural sort of thing. As far as splitting material, splitting ammo, yeah, everything should be split with your teammates. Like I said, if everyone's at the same skill level, ideally you want to split it equally. If you have players that, you know, maybe one guy is your best builder, so you want to give him extra mats. That's if you're going more in depth with it and different stuff like that for squads. But when it comes down to actually looting, those are some tips. When it comes down to fighting, fights are a lot different. Things like snipers are a lot more important. Explosives are a lot more important. A grenade launcher or a quad launcher can be just absolutely deadly. And in these fights, you got to remember, in duos, fights are fairly easy because it's once you get one person down, if they're eliminated, you've killed that team. If they're knocked, there's one more teammate, and usually you can sort of bait people in with knocks in this game, especially in duos. You know how it is. When people are playing duos together, most of the time they're going to be on voice comms, and as soon as that teammate gets knocked, the other player is probably going to be rushing to try to go for that save. So because of that, you could basically, you know, use that to your advantage and bait the other player into a bad fight. And that's why I recommend in duos staying close to each other. If you both drop tilted, drop, you know, maybe not in the same building, but drop right beside each other. If you both drop retail and do the stretch, drop in the houses beside each other so you can save each other, because the difference and the time it takes when people are knocked in this game, it's different from solos where you're instantly eliminated. If you can get someone knocked, you can save that person by building around them, protecting them, and then usually you want to go for the kill, the clutch up kills instead of the elimination, or instead of the eliminations instead of the heal or the revive, because going for the revive there is just so predictable, and the other players just have to put pressure on you, especially if there's two of them. But in duos, there's going to be a lot of opportunities where you might go down or your teammate might go down, and it's up to the other person to clutch up, and that's going to happen sometimes. The other person's going to clutch up, sometimes they aren't. So you want to have people that you're playing with that you can rely on, of course, and that's more for duos. And squads, it's not more about clutching up, it's more about keeping, if you start a squad with 4 people, of course, if you're playing with 3, you're already at a disadvantage off the start, although 3 good players sharing shield could be better than, you know, 3 good players with 1 random player. So, you know, you'll see a lot of times three good players will go and without a fill player, because that would, you know, it all depends. With fill, you're just getting a random player anyway, and a lot of people like to play with just their friends, right? So that's why that has an option anyway. But I really think that with squads, the fights are different, and it's more about keeping 2 or 3 people alive until late game, and just making sure, because late game usually you don't run into full 4-man parties unless people are hiding. And in squads, the big thing, and in duos, and like even in solos, people complain and people hate third parties, but these are even amplified because in solos, if a person comes flying in on a plane, and that's one person flying into that fight, you know, that build fight, disrupting it, if that's a squad, they might have 3 or 4 people up on the wings, which I definitely recommend. Shoot down planes in these game modes. Planes are easy to shoot down, especially if you have a high damage weapon like the gold AK or something like that. Shoot at these planes, and then if it blows up, I've had times before where there's like 3 or 4 people in a airplane, and basically I've just shot at it and it's blown up and done, I think, 50 damage to each of them, and then they have to fly in. You can pick them out of the air. It's just a really good thing to do. I don't recommend flying with your whole squad on a plane. I mean, it's okay for transportation, but fighting from there is probably not the way to go. And in squads, once again, it's another thing where you want to have at least one of your teammates close, and I recommend using sort of a buddy system would be my tip for squads. Like I said, in duos, you want to remain close enough where you can have that opportunity, but in other times where you're fighting against one player, it is good to split up and, of course, split the defense, I guess you could say, or separate, because if it's a 2v1, you want to try to sandwich that player, right? If it's a 2v2, you probably want to play together and make sure that if a person gets knocked, especially early game, because that's the most annoying thing, is sure, if your buddy gets knocked and eliminated, you might be able to clutch up and win the game, but it's not as fun. And a lot of times, if your buddy dies early, or a couple of people die early in squads, you're probably just going to want to back out of the game anyway, or something like that. So that's what I would say for that. And then basically, for example, like at the end of this game here, I wanted to go and heal my buddy, but I realized there, if I went for the heal right there without building, I'm open for a free snipe and we just lose the game. So I tried to go for the build and the heal. Of course, I didn't time it correctly. Luckily here at the end, I think one of them fell off the zip line or something. I was able to use the jump pad to reposition. And when you're at this point at the end game and I have this many mats, you can see I only had 100 health, which is what I mean. Like, health is harder to come by, and shields, because you have to split them with more people and duos and squads, and you're going to take more damage probably, or deal more damage or take more damage. And you can see here basically how I'm triple reinforcing these builds because mats are not a problem. And this gold AK, I've been really starting to like it. That 96, isn't that hit him to the head, or 98 or whatever that is? I think it's 96. You can see I can just continuously put the pressure on, and at this point, I'm not fully pushing this guy, which I would if I had 200 health, because of the fact that I realized I had 100, I had the positioning and everything, I was able to clutch up, get the 10 kill win, and me and my buddy get a nice little duo win based off of teamwork, you know, sharing our shields, positioning, trying to revive each other as much as we could. Right there, unfortunately, I kind of mistimed it. I mean, I could have definitely revived him if I didn't go for the build, but I could have been sniped and could have ruined the whole game as well, and it was a 1v2 turned into a 1v1 situation anyway, which, you know, was not too hard to clutch, especially when you have 100 health. I mean, it makes it a little bit harder, but that's about it, guys. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Hopefully these tips help you out a little bit for duos and squads and stuff like that. Drop a like, subscribe, and I'm out. Peace.